Welcome to a Steeler Thoughts and Chief Feelings film review. I'm Ajay and this week we are looking at the Chiefs' 16-14 victory over the Denver Broncos at Arrowhead Stadium. It was a thrilling game and there's a lot to break down. Before we get started, I just want to thank all of you that are following along either on these film reviews, those of you that are watching our video podcast on YouTube or downloading the audio version wherever you download podcasts, and those of you who are following along on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We have the same handle for all three. It's at STCF715. Thanks to all of you for following, for engaging, for all your support. But let's get to this game, and we are going to kick it off with 7:30 to go in the first quarter. And the Broncos have the ball with 1st and 10 just inside their own 35-yard line. At this point, both teams have had the ball once, and they've punted. And the Broncos have just gained a first down or are looking to get moving. So let's see where we are here. The Broncos have a running back in the backfield here, and they've got one tight end. So this is 11 personnel, one running back and one tight end. The Chiefs have 2 linebackers and 5 defensive backs on the field. So they have come in their nickel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defensive backs. They got Bolton and Tranquil here, and they got 4 down linemen. So Chiefs have the extra defensive back to match the 3 wide receiver set. And let's see what the Broncos are going to try to do here. The Broncos get it lined up, and they're going to run the following route combination. So they're going to have their outside receiver is going to run a deep post. The tight end is going to run an out. Then over here, you're going to have a dig with a drag route underneath. Now, this is on first down here. The Chiefs, as you know, can be a pretty exotic blitzing team, but they usually save their blitzes for 2nd and 3rd and long. But they're going to go with a tendency breaker here. One thing the Chiefs will do frequently is when you have wide receivers on these condensed sets, so instead of being way out wide, they're up here closer to the quarterback. A lot of times the Chiefs will blitz defensive backs off of these looks because there's less distance for them to run to get to the quarterback. So they take advantage. If you're going to come in condensed sets like this, they might blitz their defensive backs. And although they don't blitz a lot on 1st and 10, they do that here. So the way that Spags sets up the blitz, he actually has both guys come, Nazeeh Johnson and Trent McDuffie. And then he drops Mike Pennell back to try to sit in the middle to take care of any crossing route, any kind of quick route that the Broncos might be looking at. This blitz catches Bo Nix completely by surprise. I think part of the reason why is that the Chiefs don't blitz on first down very much. So he actually starts by working this route combination. So let's see this in action here. Before we get started, actually, I just want to quickly mark out the protections to see how guys end up coming free. So right here, this is how they've got it blocked up. They're looking to double Chris Jones, and they have the right tackle take Karlaftis. Then the left guard here is responsible for Pennell, and the left tackle for Felix Anudike-Uzomah. So then the Chiefs are going to blitz here and blitz here to try to get someone free. What ends up happening, so Pennell drops back, right? He's coming out, but the guard is supposed to have accounted for him. The tackle actually does a pretty good job when he notices what's happening of kind of coming off of Felix and trying to help out on the blitzing McDuffie. But on the right side of the Broncos, Karlaftis here is occupying the tackle, and Chris Jones actually beats the guard and gets to the center really quickly. So the guard ends up coming and helping on Karlaftis, but the tackle remains occupied, which gives Nazeeh Johnson the ability to just come off free. Now, like I was saying earlier, Bo Nix is not expecting this, because if you look at his route combination, right, what did we say they're doing? We've got a post, we've got an out route, but it's kind of a deeper out. We've got a dig, and we've got a crosser, a drag route here. This is your hot route, right? If you expect a blitz, this is the guy you're going to go to first. He's the guy who has the chance of getting open the quickest. But Bo Nix starts working this side. He's looking at these longer developing routes, And he doesn't even notice Nazeeh Johnson coming off free until looks like right about now. So see, he sees that right there, he sees Johnson coming free. And at this point, his eyes are only on Johnson. He doesn't notice his receiver coming free on the drag route right here. If he was able, I mean, not that it would be an easy throw, but if he was able to get one out to his receiver, there's a chance. And the receiver does a good job of stopping his motion because you got Drew Tranquil responsible for the flat. So if the receiver keeps it moving, Bo Nix would throw that right to Drew Tranquil. He would lead him right there. The receiver does a good job of kind of stopping in the open area, but at this point, Nix is completely surrounded, and he ends up getting sacked. But theoretically, there might have been a moment right about here where if Nix had been able to get his eyes downfield for a second, he might have had this throw. But he, imagine you're dropping back. You're looking downfield to this kind of out and post route combination. You look over and you see a defensive back completely unblocked screaming right at you. Well, you're going to try to evade him, and that's what Nix did, and Nazeeh Johnson collected the sack. All in all, very nice tendency breaker as far as the early blitz, but it wasn't a tendency breaker if you look at Spagnuolo's history of blitzing against condensed sets. So let's look at the protections one more time, and this will give us a better idea. We can see a little better Bo Nix, what he's looking at here. So again, Karlaftis is going to get to the tackle. They double here. So the center and the right guard are coming after Chris Jones. The left guard has Pennell. The left tackle has FAU. And remember that Pennell is going to drop back to try to get in the way of the crosser. McDuffie comes from this side. You can't see him yet on the screen, but Nazeeh Johnson comes from that side. So Pennell dropped back. You can see here comes McDuffie. Nazeeh Johnson's right over here. The right guard and right tackle are completely occupied, which gets Johnson off free. The left tackle does a good job of coming back and helping the running back to prevent McDuffie from coming free, but Johnson being free was all that was needed, and the Chiefs get a big sack. Ended up being a loss of 17 yards, so they got into 2nd and 27. We jump ahead now. We're in near the end of the first quarter, 53 seconds to go in the first quarter. The Broncos have a 2nd and 15 at the Chiefs' 45-yard line. Still a scoreless game. Teams continue to trade punts, but the Broncos are moving the ball a little bit here until a penalty set them back into 2nd and 15. They come out without a running back on the field, and they have a tight end. So that's 0 running backs, 1 tight end. So it would be like 0-1 formation. And the Chiefs counter in their nickel. They've got 5 defensive backs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what the Broncos are going to do here is they will run a dig route here, then a crosser and a crosser underneath. And on this side, they're going to have a clear out deep route and then a crosser on this side. The Chiefs are going to run a cover 3. So they've got deep third, deep third, deep third, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 are going to be responsible for underneath zones. However, what happens on the snap, if you see here, is that Nazeeh Johnson, number 13, appears to not have been on the same page as everybody else, because everyone here is playing as if it's a cover 3. Drop back in your zone, drop back in your zone, drop back in your zone, and then we got 1, 2, 3, 4 underneath. By this logic, Nazeeh Johnson needs to stay over here and play the shallow zone on this side of the field. However, he runs with Troy Franklin as if this is man coverage. So if you see it here, there goes Nazeeh. He's kind of running through this, runs over, and so completely vacates the underneath zone on this side of the field. To make matters worse, he and Tranquil run into each other. Tranquil's trying to man his zone here, and Nazeeh is trying to run through it to run with Troy Franklin. And so when Adam Trautman comes over on his drag route, there's literally nobody in the area. And so Trautman makes a catch, and one of the easiest catches and runs he's going to have. And comes all the way down to the 10-yard line. So based on what everybody else is doing, what it looks like should have happened is Nazeeh Johnson should have been here in the zone as Trautman came across. There either to contest or at least make the tackle on this crosser. But instead, nobody was there, and Trautman went all the way down to the 10. Just one thing to note here. On one hand, I kind of wish Bryan Cook had taken a little more lateral of an angle and made Trautman cut this back into his pursuit. Because of Cook's angle and Courtland Sutton being here as a blocker, Trautman still retained a little bit of an alley to continue this down the sideline. If Cook had come out to the sideline a little more, then maybe Trautman would have had to cut this back and pursuit would have got him. He ended up actually going out of bounds at the 10-yard line-ish, it looks like. But what Cook did manage to do is still entertaining. If you watch him here with Courtland Sutton, he just completely throws off the block. Unfortunately, still not able to make the play, though, because unless Trautman stepped out of bounds here, it's kind of hard to tell from this view. It looks like there might just be some grass in between, so he might have actually made it all the way down to the 10-yard line. But had Cook taken a little better of an angle, you think that maybe he would have been able to force him to cut back somewhere around here, and maybe pursuit would have got him closer to the 20 rather than the 10. But it was cool seeing Cook just kind of run through Courtland Sutton, even though functionally it didn't really help the play too much. Now we can see it here from the end zone view, and the main benefit we'll get from this view is just kind of seeing Nazeeh Johnson come across. There, we can't really see the coverage just too well, but you can see, look, Bolton, Tranquil, they're clearly playing underneath zones, right? And here comes Johnson, the one man who is playing man coverage here. So much so that, look, Tranquil, then when they collide, Tranquil must be like, what are you doing here? Why are you over here? And then Trautman just has green grass ahead of him. And here we can see Cook again just run through Courtland Sutton's block, shove him off. But unfortunately, the Broncos get all the way down to the 10-yard line, setting up first and goal, coming off of, remember, what was a 2nd and 15. We'll come to 14:20 to go in the second quarter. So we're a couple plays ahead, and now the Broncos have a third down. They've got 3rd and 5 around the 6-yard line. So as you can see up at the top of the screen, they actually can get a first down at the 1-yard line if they make it. So what the Broncos come out in, they come out here in 11 personnel again. They've got a running back and a tight end. And the Chiefs match this again in their nickel personnel. So here they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defensive backs. And the route combinations the Broncos run, they get Courtland Sutton coming to the back of the end zone here. Vele is going to come across and run a drag. Trautman is going to come up, and Humphrey is going to come behind him and run a dig right at the goal line. So it'll be kind of like a natural pick. And then from the backfield, they have their back come out in a jet motion to start at the snap and come out into the flat. And it's this route that ultimately is the key here to get this play to work. Because what the Chiefs are doing, and to me, Sean Payton completely anticipated this, and he had a play ready for it. The Chiefs essentially play like a form of quarters. So they've got inside, outside, like middle responsibilities. This is Cook taking inside, Nazeeh Johnson taking outside. And on this side, they essentially use Reed to double Courtland Sutton. So they're really worried about him in the red zone. So when he comes up on his dig route, they've got McDuffie and Reed essentially doubling him. Well, that just leaves 1, 2, 3 guys underneath to cover at the goal line level. What this jet motion does then is it provides a guy in the flat. Since Sutton's going deep, so I think Sean Payton was aware of the Chiefs' tendency to, double their best red zone threat. He probably anticipated a double on Sutton. And so I think it was very intentional that he sent Sutton deep so that the two defenders with him are also going toward the back of the end zone and leaving the flat open. He then, at the snap, he sends the running back over into the flat, which means somebody's got to be there. Otherwise, that's going to be an easy touchdown. So Tranquil has to rotate over there. And now you're just left with Bolton and Connor as the only two underneath guys at the goal line. Well, Vele is going to come across, but Trautman is going to come up, and Humphrey also in this area. And so if we watch over here, so let's watch the jet motion first, right? So there's the jet motion. Tranquil knows that these two guys are responsible for him, so he's got to move. So there comes the jet motion to the outside. Vele is going to come across the middle, but we have Humphrey here too, and Trautman. And so if you look at Connor is playing outside leverage here on Trautman, which clearly means that he thinks he's got help on the inside, which has got to be Nick Bolton. So the way they're playing this is that Bolton's going to be help on the inside. There are two guys over here. Bolton shoves Vele as he comes across to try to get him off of his path because you're allowed to contact the receiver within 5 yards. But since Tranquil has to go over to the flat, this leaves a huge void over here. Bolton doesn't feel like he can continue running with him because Connor is expecting inside help and Trautman is also here as well. So what ends up happening is the gap left by the combination of Peyton sending this guy deep, who gets doubled, and then this guy out, creates this void in the center, and he sends Vele right into it, and the Broncos get an easy touchdown. This is just really good play design from Sean Payton, understanding the Chiefs' tendencies and running a nice route combination that gets a wide open, easy throw for Bo Nix, and this ends up being the first touchdown of the game. We see it from the end zone view, so here comes the motion, and you can see Tranquil is going to just follow and be forced to vacate the space because he can't just let the running back go to the flat completely uncovered. Bolton tries to push Vele off of his route, but the timing is still there. Easy touchdown for the Broncos. Great play design from Sean Payton. One thing I will say that's encouraging is look at Tershawn Wharton's rush here. This is a day where the Chiefs really seem to struggle to get pressure with 4. So it's nice to see Wharton had a nice one-on-one win here. The only reason he didn't actually get pressure was that Vele popped open so quickly that Nix was able to get the throw off quickly. But this is a nice pass rush win right there for Wharton. So hopefully he'll be able to continue doing that through the season and increase the likelihood that the Chiefs can get good pressure with 4 guys. Move ahead to 9:49 to go in the second quarter. The Chiefs have 3rd and 7 on the Denver 19-yard line. They're down 7-0. So to try to convert this third down, the Chiefs end up coming out in 11 personnel. Their one running back is Samaje Perine, and the tight end is Travis Kelce. What they end up doing, they run Hopkins on like a short hitch route, and everybody else they end up, they're going to motion Kelce, so I don't know why I'm drawing Kelce over here. Kelce's going to end up over here. Everybody else, they end up just running curls to the sticks. So Watson tries to find space in the middle. Everybody's just kind of coming and sitting past the first down marker. The Broncos end up playing like a cover 4 zone, so they're just kind of drop, 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 drop. And then these 3 underneath guys end up going right back to the sticks. So they're trying to allow things in front of them and come up and make the tackle. So here comes that route combination. And if you notice, as Mahomes drops back and hits the back of his drop, he's forced off his spot almost immediately. So here he is, waiting for the routes to develop, and he's forced off his spot. That's because, unfortunately, Trey Smith takes a really, really quick loss to John Franklin Myers. gets off balance, and here Mahomes has a defensive tackle, John Franklin Myers, just bearing down on him immediately before he can, he literally hits the back of his drop, one hitch, and has to move off his spot. And that's unfortunate because right here, as Mahomes is bailing, Kelce comes open, sitting underneath the zone. And as Mahomes is stepping up, another reason why he would have had to get out anyway, but he's not even able to scramble laterally because Kingsley is getting brought around the arc by Nick Bonito too. But as Kelce comes open here, Mahomes is already on the move. And Mahomes sees it and tries to, if you notice, he pumps right there, but Zach Allen comes off and is right in his throwing lane, right in his face. And Mahomes, rightfully so, doesn't feel comfortable getting that throw off. He's already had a couple throws tipped by defensive linemen and intercepted this year. Also, you don't want to risk getting hit and fumbling during this while you're trying to make the throw. So he wisely, in my opinion, tucks it and tries to scramble and is only able to get a yard. But this is a play that if you look at it, if not for the offensive line's failure here, this would have been a first down to Kelce. That would have been a contested catch for him. I don't know that he would have been, he's struggled a little today with contested catches, but Kelce for sure was open here. If Mahomes had the chance, had the time to survey and make that throw, that probably would have been a first down. So that is a failed red zone third down that just goes straight on the offensive line. It's unfortunate. Trey Smith, overall, a very good blocker, more of a run blocker than a pass blocker, but occasionally he'll have a really big pass block loss, and that's one he had this time. Here we can see it from the end zone view here. So again, watch Trey Smith, who's blocking John Franklin Myers. I think first things first, it looks like John Franklin Myers gets a great jump on the snap. If you notice the timing, Creed is, right as he's about to snap it looks like John Franklin Myers really had the cadence down here. Actually, I want to see it from this side now that we've noticed that. Yeah, look at that. Look how quickly he gets off here. He almost came into the neutral zone before the snap, but he didn't. He kind of held himself. It's almost like, you would have thought that could have hindered him actually, because he takes a back step right there because he's afraid of having jumped too early. But he actually is able to use it to his advantage as Trey Smith tries to come out and punch right there. He just swipes right through. So I don't know that the early get off was meaning that he got into Trey Smith early, but it's weird. He ended up having an odd rush because he stepped up, stepped back, and I wonder if that kind of weird pattern ended up helping him out a little bit. But he either way, he utilized it really well. He was able to discard Trey Smith's punch and get immediate pressure. Here's Mahomes. Look at Mahomes waiting for Kelce's not open yet, and now he's got a big defensive tackle coming right down at him. So Mahomes has to move off of his spot, and this is where Kelce comes open, and Mahomes wants to throw this, and look at Zach Allen right there in his face. Makes this a very risky thought to try to throw this pass, so he wisely just tucks it. The Chiefs can't convert on third down. They end up having to settle for a field goal to make it 7-3. All right, now we're down to 6:39 to go in the second quarter. It's a 7-3 game with the Broncos leading, and they've got a 3rd and 1 just at the Chiefs' about 32-yard line. The Broncos come out here in 13 personnel, so that means 1 running back and 3 tight ends, and one of their 3 tight ends is an offensive tackle that is reported eligible. So this screams to any defensive player that this looks like a running formation, right? It's 3rd and 1. You have 3 tight ends, and you have a 6th tackle and 2 tight ends. So you got the jumbo set in. It's a short yardage situation. Looks like you're going to run. the Chiefs are all up at the line, and they end up having one deep safety, Justin Reed, and all their coverage guys are just manning up. So Nazeeh Johnson manned up here, Brian Cook here, Nick Bolton's got the running back, Leo Chenal's got the tackle tight end. So they're in their base formation, only 4 defensive backs, and they're manned up. And then, of course, McDuffie's over here and Cortland Sutton. They've got one deep guy, and they're just manning everybody up. The Broncos are going to run a play action here, and that kind of brings everybody up, including Justin Reed takes a couple steps forward here. It's 3rd and 1, remember. And they run a shot play off of it where they have Cortland Sutton go deep, and they've got the tight end run an over route. And that's it. That's the entire route combination. So they basically are banking on the fact that they're in a jumbo set. They play action. The Chiefs are going to be expecting run here and see if they can get a one-on-one or an easy throw for Knicks. And this is probably, honestly, the read here is just wherever the safety goes, throw to the other guy. You know, if Justin Reed had dropped, this would have been a very easy throw to 82. Justin Reed came forward. Sutton got a step. So the throw is to Sutton. Catches a 32-yard touchdown. So this is just excellent, excellent play design from Sean Payton, right? He's putting Bo Nix in situations where he can succeed. You get into a short yardage situation. You get it set up where everybody's thinking that you're going to run the ball. You get a nice, simple route combination off a play action and make a easy decision for your quarterback to make. Here, he throws the deep ball to Sutton and gets a big touchdown. The other thing I'll say, besides the great game planning here that we've seen from Sean Payton to this point, this is a great job by Cortland Sutton of just being physical on this route. So you see his release is good, but McDuffie's running with him. Right, McDuffie's in his hip pocket as McDuffie is want to be. But right there, Sutton creates separation. And he does it here by, he pushes off. And he does it nice and subtly. He doesn't really extend his arm at a 90-degree angle. But he definitely creates separation with his arm right here. And I know it's a little difficult to see here on the All-22 because of, how far away this camera is. So let's switch over to broadcast replay to kind of get a better idea of how he used his arm to create separation. So here's the broadcast view. They gave us a nice replay where they got a close-in shot of McDuffie and Sutton so you can see him run the route. So here's Sutton's release. Like we said, McDuffie right in his hip pocket, running with him, and now watch Sutton's right arm right there. Right there is where he extends the arm and creates the separation. So up until that point, McDuffie's running right with him, stride for stride. And there is the push off right there. I will say he's really subtle about it. And I feel like oftentimes when they get called, I think, if an official did see that, he probably calls that. But, I think some people just refer to this as hand fighting. It's, he did push off. He created separation. It was a physical play. And he scored. All right, now back here on the All-22. But you can see it was a great job by Sutton. I don't know. He's really physical, and he definitely pushes off. I don't want to say that they should have thrown a flag there. I think he was very good at being subtle about it. And then you look at where the referee is positioned. He's not really in a great place to see that. I think, this is what they call the nuances of the game as a receiver, right? He not obvious about it. He doesn't shove off. Like, I don't blame the ref for not calling this one. Maybe it was more obvious to this ref. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't even looking in that direction. I'm not sure. But in any case, it's just a great route by a great receiver. And you know what? If you're a defensive back in the NFL, you're going to have to deal with some physicality. Even if it isn't an obvious push-off, they're not going to call it. So I think, Sutton, I chalk that up more to just nuances of the game. If he had been called for it, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But I don't think this is one where you have to be like, well, there was, that should have been called, obviously. They don't call that kind of thing a lot of times with, these stronger receivers that they allow what they call some hand fighting. And he managed it there and created separation and got a touchdown. Now we can see here from the end zone cam, you can kind of see how much of a run play this looks like. Like, look at the beef up front. You got 6 linemen and 2 tight ends right here. They didn't even have to sell this play action that hard. Get everybody up, and then it's just an easy, you got 2 guys to look at. You're either going to throw it to him, but you have Reed dropping down, so then throw it to Sutton deep. Touchdown Broncos. 14-3 lead here. And we've got 1:44 to go in the first half. Chiefs are still down 14-3, and they're faced with a 4th and goal at the Denver 2-yard line. Andy decides he's got to go for this one. And he dials up really the best red zone play that he used all game. I think he really kind of dug into the bag for this one, where it felt like he was a little hesitant to dig in the bag throughout the rest of this game. But what the Chiefs end up doing here, first of all, they are lined up here in 12 personnel. So they've got the 1 running back, Samaje Perine, and their 2 tight ends are Travis Kelce and Noah Gray. 2 wide receivers are DeAndre Hopkins and Justin Ross. So they've got their kind of red zone guys out there. Now, Hopkins ends up just running a kind of a hook route here and tries to get position and leverage on Surtain and ends up pulling it out. Noah Gray is going to go in motion, so we should probably let him do that before drawing out his route. And out of this bunch, they run this combination. Ross comes out to the corner. Gray comes across and sits right at the goal line. And Kelce waits for Gray, comes behind, and then brings it over right to the goal line. The Broncos end up essentially running like a cover 4, but they end up blitzing 1, so they end up having 5 rushing the quarterback, so that leaves them with kind of 6 in defense, in coverage, I should say. And when they kind of bring 4 back, that only leaves 2 people underneath. So with the Chiefs having only 1 guy really going deep, they end up having a couple guys now near the goal line with only 2 defenders down covering the underneath areas. So if you look how this plays out, so we see Ross clear out first, Gray come behind him and sit. And if you notice, as Gray's coming over, 55 is sliding this way, and it's because he's keeping eyes on Perine leaking late. So he actually creates a huge hole there for Noah Gray right there. But Kelce trailing the play also is open. And if you see, his defender is struggling because of the route that Kelce ran, which we'll get into in a minute. And so Mahomes just hits the trailing Kelce for an easy touchdown underneath. But definitely if he wanted it, Gray was right here. But the first read on this play is Kelce as the trailer. And so that's what Mahomes is looking for first. But watch this route that Kelce runs. He kind of comes off the jam from the end. And then look at how quickly he will take a kind of shuffle, 1, 2, bam, he's turned around. And look at what it does to his defender who's trying to kind of figure out, because in theory, Kelce could go all the way to the flat. So look at his defender trying to contend with that route. He actually ends up slipping. This is such a good cut. And Kelce's very good at not letting you know where he's going to go until the very end. So he kind of does like a little shuffle, boom, gets around quick, ball's right on him. Easy touchdown. Very hard to defend. one of the things you can see pretty well from the end zone view is why, because initially it looks weird, like why is 55 moving away from Noah Gray as Noah Gray is coming right here to sit in the goal line? But he's paying attention to P. Ryan. I think he doesn't want P. Ryan to be able to leak and have nobody cover him. But really, like, Noah Gray is wide open because of that. I don't know if that's a better alternative. And then Mahomes hits Kelce as the trailer, and they score a touchdown to make it 14-10 before halftime. We're now at 14-13 to go in the third quarter. So the Chiefs got the ball to start the third quarter out of halftime, down 14-10, and they quickly get into 3rd and 10 already. They're at their own 27-yard line trying to convert here. The Chiefs are in 11 personnel. They've got their one running back, Samaje Perine, and the one tight end, Travis Kelce. The Broncos appear to be... Well, they might be in dime here. 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like this may be the only linebacker on the field. Yeah, so it looks like they might be in dime. I think I count 6 defensive backs. I believe this is a defensive back. I apologize, I don't know the Broncos personnel that well. So what the Chiefs try to do here is they are going to run Justin Watson on an out. Cole Hardman's going to motion and then run a deep over. Kelce is going to run the underneath over and then the shallow cross for Hopkins. And the Broncos essentially just man everything up. They're going to have one safety deep. This safety is going to play robber. Man to man. Man to man. Man to man. Man to man. Got the running back. And the only kind of variation in coverage is as Kelce runs his over, they pass him off. So the robber ends up picking him up for the second part of the over, and this guy ends up hanging out and being the robber. So you can see it in action here. There they go. And as you can see, nobody's really open, right? It's good coverage here, good coverage here, good coverage here. The one thing you could say is that there may be like a good throw to Hardman might be able to get this done. Now we know Hardman isn't the best at contested catches downfield. I mean, this is still good coverage, right? He's tightly covered, but if there is a throw, that's the throw. Everybody else, it seems like there's nothing really there. The reason why I'm showing this play is because, as you can probably guess, this ends up in a sack. A bunch of defenders converge on Mahomes, and John Franklin Myers gets the sack. And we'll get into that a little bit more in just a second. But part of the reason I wanted to choose this play is that, you know, there's a lot of talk about the offensive line performance. And, yeah, it was not good overall. And specifically about Kingsley Suamata'ia's performance, which, again, was unfortunately really not good. But that wasn't the whole story as to why there was pressure or why things weren't working for the offense at times. And this is another part of the story. The Broncos challenged the Chiefs with man coverage, and there were many times when the Chiefs just couldn't get open. Like we said, everybody's blanketed here on this play. Mahomes has nowhere to go. The one option, is possibly if you want to hit Hardman here. But again, that's tight. What's the probability that this gets caught based on deep throws to Hardman in the past? It's pretty low. So the Broncos did a really good job here. The other thing that contributes to the sack here is if you watch Mahomes has a little bit of a tendency to drift back and drift side to side. And what that does in this play is that the guy who makes the sack here, John Franklin Myers, doesn't just conventionally rush here. What he does is he waits and then loops all the way around as like a contained defender. And this is something that teams in the AFC West, especially the Chargers, did it earlier this year. They're going to do because they know that Mahomes moves around. And so Mahomes essentially runs himself into this pressure as he's trying. It looks like he's waiting on this route to see, if he's going to get enough separation to feel good about throwing it. But ultimately, him drifting like this over here just gives Franklin Myers a clear shot to go and pressure him. The drift back also makes Juwan Taylor's job a little bit harder blocking on the edge, because the farther back you go, the more of a straight angle that the defender has around you. If you're sitting up here in the pocket, they have to get around the tackle or go through the tackle. But the more you drop back, the easier it is for the defender. So he gets an easier run, and then the drift this way leads to him having an easier run. I mean, ultimately, it's still a coverage sack. It took a long time, but the pressure ended up occurring not because there was some breakdown in the offensive line, but because of A, time, and B, Mahomes' position. Drifting around allowed defenders to get free shots at him, and ultimately he was sacked. You can see it from the end zone view back here. Mahomes drops back, because right now the pocket's fine, right? Oh, sorry, I said this was John Franklin Myers. I was completely wrong. This is Nick Bonito. It's Nick Bonito that they have kind of swing around here and pressure Mahomes. John Franklin Myers is the edge that ended up beating Juwan Taylor. My apologies for that. But, yeah, Bonito, look at him just biding his time and waiting to loop around the edge. And Mahomes just runs, look at him drift right into it. And Benito's able to cause pressure there. By that time, the pocket's already collapsed. I mean, like I said, this is a coverage. Zach Allen ends up winning late against Trey Smith. And Zach Allen, to me, was possibly the best player on this defense. Either him or Pat Surtain. But Zach Allen did such a great job causing pressure. And Franklin Myers ultimately gets the sack. So there are a lot of reasons why the Chiefs struggled. You know, some of it was the offensive line play. Some of it was the man coverage was really sticky. And the Chiefs didn't really run a lot of man beaters in this game for whatever reason. That just wasn't part of their strategy. So the Broncos, with their tight man coverage, were still able to suffocate receivers on a lot of plays like this and allowing the coverage to get home. And then it was exacerbated by Mahomes' tendency to move around a little bit, which, I mean, again, you kind of understand, right? He's had a rough day at the office as far as the protection. He probably doesn't trust the pocket very much, but when you drift around like that, sometimes it makes that pressure that much easier. In any case, results in a sack, and the Chiefs had to punt. All right, now we get to 13 seconds to go in the third quarter. The Chiefs have tacked on a field goal at this point, so it's 14-13 Denver. And Denver is faced with a 3rd and 11 at the Chiefs' 44-yard line. Now the Broncos come out in 11 personnel. They've got a running back, they've got a tight end, and 3 wide receivers. And the Chiefs are out here in nickel personnel. They've got 5 defensive backs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, Denver, what they are going to do, they're going to try to get a route combination going up the field, and out, and over, and then down here, another out route. And you can see the Chiefs are manned up on this. The Chiefs are actually running a cover 0 blitz, so they have no deep safety. They've just got man-to-man here, man-to-man there, man-to-man there, man-to-man there. That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody else is coming after the quarterback. They're sending 7. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And actually, now that I notice it, this isn't just your typical nickel that the Chiefs are in. They only have 3 linemen on this play. So this is a 3-3-5 nickel. So 3 linemen, 3 linebackers, 5 defensive backs. They've got Leo Chanel in here as the edge. So he's actually a linebacker. So with the Chiefs, they end up blitzing everyone. But if you notice, though Bolton and Reed are hanging out over here, they don't actually come make their move until right before the ball is snapped. And they end up coming through the A-gaps. So the way that the Broncos seem to have this blocked is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the right tackle is responsible for Tranquil, but if you notice, the tight end's going to chip, and the tackle is going to help here and then try to get out, something that proved to be very difficult for him to do. The real question is why, especially as Bolton is someone who's like hanging up here around the A-gap, why was he not accounted for? As we've done in previous film reviews, oftentimes one of the ways that Spags ends up getting overloads on different sides is he takes advantage of the fact that guys that come up like this are often accounted for in the protection scheme, but the Broncos didn't. I understand a little more for Reed because Reed didn't really come and show his intention to blitz until the very end. He was kind of hanging around like Brian Cook is back here, But Bolton is within a couple yards of the line of scrimmage the entire time. They didn't account for either Reed or Bolton with the blocking scheme, which means that they didn't think they were blitzing, right? Because if you have someone coming through the A-gap, you're going to account for them. At the very least, they only thought one of them was blitzing. And so the other possibility is that they thought Bolton was blitzing and they thought that their running back could take care of him. But they clearly didn't think that both Bolton and Reed were blitzing, which is what happened. The running back takes Reed and Bolton comes free, and a free guy in the A-gap is your worst nightmare as a quarterback. And Bo Nix acted like he was having a nightmare. He turned and ran. And he ended up losing 16 yards on the play trying to get out of the sack. But let's get into a little more of why the Broncos may not have thought that they were blitzing in the A-gap. And let's show you a play that came up earlier on this drive on a previous third down. So this is the 3rd and 5 actually from earlier this drive. And it's really informative as to what the Broncos' protection scheme might have been thinking. See, in this play, Tranquil and Bolton were up in the A-gaps. But if you watch, they ended up not blitzing. They kind of stayed in and almost looked like they were anticipating for a quarterback draw or something. This was initially brought up. I first heard about this play being earlier on the drive from Matthew Lane of the Kansas City Sports Network on their post-game show, and I went back to look at it, and he's right. Earlier in the drive, you've got Tranquil and Bolton hanging out in the A-gaps, and they didn't blitz. And you wonder if, you can see it here from the end zone view too, you wonder if this ended up confusing the protection scheme as the next third down, Bolton and Reed end up coming up in the A-gaps, and they end up blitzing. And you wonder if their protection scheme was less likely to account for them because they had just seen this from Bolton and Tranquil a couple plays earlier, where they came up in the A-gaps and didn't end up blitzing. So as you can see from that play, they did come up, Tranquil and Bolton had come up and mugged the A-gaps, but they didn't pressure. And so you wonder if both Bo Nix and the pass protection were thinking that as Bolton's coming up here and Reed is kind of in the vicinity, maybe they thought it was going to be something similar to that, and they wouldn't have to block them or account for them. In any case, it ended up being a great blitz call from Spags. Nick Bolton did say after the game that this is something that they saw, a blitz they put in based on something they saw in film. So it makes me wonder even more if that earlier bit was a setup, having them be in the A-gaps, noticing that if you do that, then the Broncos may not account for you in the A-gaps later. And they got a big stop, a big sack. Because if you remember, the Broncos were close to field goal range here. And this is a game that ultimately ended 16-14. At this point, it's 14-13 Broncos. So a score there would have changed the complexion of this game. Move ahead to 12:51 to go in the game. The Chiefs have a 1st and 10 at their 49-yard line, and they're down 14-13 at this point. They're here in 11 personnel. We've got Carson Steele, the one running back, Noah Gray, the one tight end. The 3 wide receivers are DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Watson, and Xavier Worthy. The Chiefs are going to run the 9-8-9 route concept. So they're going to run a 9 route on this. A 9 route is just a go route. Xavier Worthy runs the 9 route on the outside, and the 8 route is a post. So Justin Watson runs a post in the middle. This is designed for like middle of the field coverages, like a cover 1 or a cover 3. And here the Broncos are running a cover 1 man. So they've got single high safety, everybody else is manned up. Now, the Chiefs have their running back, Carson Steele, and tight end, Noah Gray, stay in to block. So the Broncos end up having extra underneath defenders. Usually in a cover 1 man, since everybody's manned up, you have the 1 deep safety, and then you have 1 underneath defender. But since these 2 guys don't have to be manned up, you end up having a couple other underneath defenders in this situation. Not that it matters on this play, because the Chiefs are going deep. So let's see how this play shakes out here. They get set up. Here are Gray and Steele into block. Hopkins is running a go. Worthy is running a go. And here's Watson running his post up in the middle. If you see the progression, Mahomes is looking over to Hopkins first on the left, and he kind of pumps here. It looks like he's thinking about throwing a back shoulder throw to Hopkins here. He's got off coverage. So it looks like he's thinking about whether he can just toss this in back shoulder. He kind of like shakes his shoulders in that direction and then turns it down. Then as he moves off of Hopkins, he notices Worthy getting a step on this side, and he just lets it go. This is exactly what you want from Xavier Worthy, right? He's look at this. I mean, he's got like 2 steps on his defender. He's beat him deep. The safety is held up by the post route in the middle of the field. This should be like a sure huge gain, probably a sure touchdown. But unfortunately, Mahomes throws this out of bounds. And I must say, Xavier Worthy did a great job of tracking this ball. He almost, look at him try to keep his feet in and do his best to try to bring this ball in. He did a great job of trying to contort his body and get to this, but the throw is just too inaccurate. It's really unfortunate because this is exactly what the Chiefs want. They had it. Mahomes had Worthy deep. Some people were hypothesizing that, maybe Mahomes rushed this throw a little bit because he has the clean pocket, right? He shouldn't be in a hurry on this throw. He comes back, he sees it, lets it go. And it's just off target there. From the end zone view, we'll be able to see what Mahomes was looking at. And you can kind of see how he starts over to his left on the progression. So here he is. He's looking over at Hopkins. And look, he wants to make this throw like immediately. It really looks like he's thinking about back shoulder before ultimately deciding to turn it down. And the other thing I want you to note is as he comes back over to his right, look at the flag on the field goal post. As he turns over to his right, look at that flag kick up. There's a gust of wind. People were saying maybe the wind carried that ball. Honestly, it does look like the wind picked up right as he was about to throw that ball. It's pretty cool that we happen to get a view where we can see the flag right here as we see Mahomes. But if you're watching, there's a gust of wind right there that picks up and continues as he throws this ball. So it's possible the wind carried that ball a little bit out of bounds. But the counter to that would be the safety's beat. Like, there is no harm in putting this ball over here and making Worthy go run to it. You don't even have to be that close to the sideline. It's one thing if you have a safety that's coming in and, up here and coming over this way. But the safety's completely out of the picture. This is one-on-one. I mean, if the ball is catchable to Worthy and you don't severely underthrow it, he's going to go get this ball and no one else is going to get it. So it would have been easy to just put this ball out in front and in this part of the field and let him just run to it. Unfortunately, it's an incomplete pass. This would have made the game 20-14. The Chiefs actually ended up punting on this drive and giving the ball back to Denver. So a really big missed shot here and could have changed the narrative of the game entirely if they had been able to connect on this one. We're now at 10:02 to go in the game. The Chiefs have the ball again, and they have a 3rd and 13, still down 14-13 in the fourth quarter. The Chiefs come out again in 11 personnel. They've got the one running back is Samaje Perine. Their tight end this time is Travis Kelce. They've got 3 wide receivers, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, and DeAndre Hopkins. what the Chiefs end up trying to do here is they again keep the tight end and the running back into block. So it ends up being a 3-man route combination on third down. You can see that the Chiefs really didn't trust their ability to pick up the pass rush. So they kept in 7 total to block and a max protect and only sent 3 out. So their route combination here, Xavier Worthy ends up coming in and running a whip route. Justin Watson ends up coming and running to the corner, and DeAndre Hopkins comes underneath and also comes out. The Broncos actually run a 0 blitz, and the Chiefs' offensive line has a little trouble picking it up. So they end up, look how many people they end up sending. So they're rushing these 3, and then you get a blitz from here, from here, from here. And so they have no safety help, right? Everyone's just manned up. They've got Surtain on Kelce. They've got this linebacker here on P. Ryan, and then all 3 here are manned up. And if you remember our route combination, so Worthy's going to come in and out. Watson is coming up and out, and Hopkins is coming through. And the Broncos, I think, they get confused here on who is picking up DeAndre Hopkins, how they're going to handle the split out of the bunch. It's clear that we've got you here on Worthy, but both of these 2 defenders think that they're taking Justin Watson. The over-the-top guy is mirroring him. The underneath guy jams him. And Hopkins just slips through completely uncovered, wide open. Now back to the blitz. The Broncos get a free rusher on their cover 0 blitz, which is unfortunate because the Chiefs did have 7 in to protect. It looks like they kind of slid their entire protection to the right, but the blitzer here actually gets picked up. Kelce gets this guy. The interior line is there, so had P. Ryan taken him, this would have actually been blocked up really well. Instead, there's a free rusher, and you can see Mahomes is having to kind of fade away as he throws this. Fortunately, Hopkins is wide open, but Mahomes isn't able to get enough on it. He underthrows the ball. You can see Hopkins right here having to slow and stop for it. And it's unfortunate because as you see here, had Mahomes been able to put this out in front of Hopkins and he could catch this on the run, this is probably a touchdown. But since he has to slow, it gives 21 a chance to catch up to him. And he ultimately makes a tackle after a 31-yard gain. But if you see Justin Watson blocking downfield, if Hopkins was just a little bit out ahead, he probably takes this all the way for 6. It's unfortunate that it ended up that way, but it's because the free rusher and Mahomes just wasn't able to get an accurate throw off in the face of the rush. It's possible if instead of fading back so much, he just kind of planted, stood, and delivered, maybe he gets a little more on this ball, and this is a touchdown. Instead, the Chiefs get the ball at about the 19 or 18-yard line. Here we can see it. So what it looks like is, it looks like from this side, we're kind of accounting for people like this. You're accounting for him, he's accounting for him, he's accounting for him, he's accounting for 0. And then 55 ends up looping around, and Kelce takes him. But see here, he ends up picking up 22 over here. Here, 52 doesn't rush, so Tooney's coming over to help out. Morris has 15, but they end up also rushing 6 off the edge, and he's the one that ends up being unblocked. 22, let's see, Taylor and, so it looks like, because initially it looked like 22 was going to be Trey Smith's responsibility, but it looks like Taylor passes 0 off to Smith. Creed comes in, so they look at how the Chiefs end up really nicely picking up this side of the blitz, to the point that they didn't really need P. Ryan coming up behind. If P. Ryan had been able to come and help out on 6 over here, and that clearly wasn't how they had drawn it up in the protection, but unfortunate that happened because they did have enough guys in to block. It's just the Broncos had a nice blitz that ended up taking advantage of the Chiefs' protection and getting a guy free. But it's here that, Mahomes just had to kind of loft this ball more than one would like because of the pressure. And if you can see here, you can see Hopkins slowing down for it, having to kind of break his stride, slow down, gather the ball, and then get going again. It's too bad because that really could have been a touchdown. But in any case, it ends up being a big gain, and the Chiefs are inside the 20-yard line. Now here we are with 6:03 to go in the game, and the Chiefs are currently down 14-13, and they have a 3rd and goal at the Denver 2-yard line. Big play for the Chiefs here because if they're able to score a touchdown and 2-point conversion would make it 21-14. They'd be up a touchdown. And if they are forced to kick a field goal here, then they'd only be up 16-14. So a Denver field goal could potentially win this game. The Chiefs are going to come out here in 12 personnel. They have the one running back, that's Samaje Perine. Their tight ends are Noah Gray and Travis Kelce. Their wide receivers are Xavier Worthy and DeAndre Hopkins. What they end up running here on this 3rd and goal play, they get Hopkins running a backside slant. Perine is going to come up and sit at the goal line. Noah Gray is going to come up and sit at the goal line. Xavier Worthy has come to the flat and sitting at the goal line. And Kelce is running by them and going to the end line, the corner route. What Denver does is they just have all these defenders here sitting in zones right at the goal line, and they have one player deep. So if we watch this route combination develop, you can see here Gray and Worthy on this side are holding these defenders shallow, and Kelce pops up open behind them. As he comes open, though, unfortunately, Mahomes' throw goes over his head out of bounds, and the Chiefs fail to convert this 3rd down. Now, there's been a lot of talk about how Mahomes missed this throw. And yes, it's not a perfect throw by any means, but it's also not a crazy inaccurate throw. So when I see this here, it's like just over Kelce's fingertips. This makes me think of what I remember Eli Manning once saying on the Manning cast, which is when you throw it to the back of the end zone, you're always taught to throw it at the face mask or higher. I don't necessarily, I kind of think this is where Mahomes was trying to throw this ball, or at least close to it. And part of it is that maybe he threw it a smidge high, but I think part of it was just the timing between him and Kelce. I think he was expecting Kelce to be able to actually plant and jump for this ball. In which case, I think he certainly would have caught it, right? This is not that high. It went just over his outstretched arm. But their timing was a little off that Kelce wasn't ready for the pass to, get up there and go get it. Instead, he kind of had to do this half jump, which wasn't enough for him to catch this. So I don't think it's as simple as, Mahomes missed the throw. It was inaccurate. I think it was more of a timing issue between him and Kelce. I think he's trying to put this throw high. But he and Kelce just weren't quite on the same page, which is unusual. And they didn't have their timing down perfectly. And so Kelce wasn't able to go up and get it. I think if you remember the touchdown he threw to Kelce against the Bengals in the AFC Championship game a couple years ago on 4th down, he popped that one up high into the back of the end zone. And I think that's what he was trying to do here. They just weren't quite on the same page. We can see this now from the end zone view. Again, the play worked really well. Unfortunately, they got Kelce wide open. They just weren't able to connect. And you can see the throw here. And Kelce is just not able to get a good jump based on the timing. I think this is definitely a catchable ball if Kelce is able to plant and jump. Unfortunately, he wasn't. And I think that's part of why Kelce's frustrated. Kelce's not the kind of guy that I think is going to hang his head because his quarterback threw an inaccurate ball. I think he knows that they weren't on the same page on that play, and I think that's why he's frustrated here. Chiefs had to settle for a field goal, and so they go up 16-14 with just under 6 minutes to go in the game. Final play of the game. The Broncos have driven the ball all the way down to the Chiefs' 17-yard line and run out the rest of the clock. The Chiefs are up 16-14, and the Broncos have got it down to 1 second to go to try to kick the game-winning field goal. Ends up being a 35-yard field goal by Will Lutz. Now, the key to watch on this play is over here. So we've got Justin Reid, Jack Cochran, Leo Chenal, and George Karlaftis. So the Chiefs clearly end up targeting this man right here, number 54, on the Broncos, and they end up sending basically 3 right here, the Cochran, Chenal, and Karlaftis. Chenal kind of gets the main contact and just knocks him over entirely. Karlaftis is following, and Chenal is able to gather after knocking him over and leap alongside Karlaftis, and you can see here the ball hitting Chenal's arm right there. It ends up being below the palm on the wrist. But if you see this trajectory, it really looks like Karlaftis would have blocked it if Chenal didn't. But he gets his hand, they basically just bull over. You can see number 54 straight on his back. They just bull him over entirely and block this kick, preserving the Chiefs' victory 16-14. Now, there are a couple things to break down on this play. First of all, it's been going around on the internet. I believe the Kansas City media person is named D-Mac Wake that initially posted this video that kind of made the rounds now since then. And it's a compilation of number 54 getting knocked on his back on field goal attempts throughout the season. So this is something that has been happening. He's been kind of a weak link in their protection all year. So if you want to see him right here, you can see it from this view pretty well, how he gets just knocked back entirely. You can see Chenal coming, but look at, they've got Cochran, Karlaftis, and Chenal. So clearly this is something that the Chiefs were targeting, right? This is a guy that has been blown off his spot several times this year. The Chiefs were aware of this and so sent the rush right through toward him. And just look at the athleticism here from Chenal. He knocks him over in the first motion and then gathers and just leaps. Gets right in front. You can see it's a blurry ball, but there's the ball right there. Contacts his hand as he blocks the kick. But it wasn't so simple as just that they went right at 54. There are a couple more aspects to this. I think the first thing was the film study and knowing that this is a weak link and we want to target him. But let's jump over now to an extra point that the Broncos kicked after their second touchdown during this game. Let's take a look at that. Well, I lied. This isn't an extra point attempt. This is actually the 60-yard field goal attempt that the Broncos tried at the end of the first half, the one that McCole Hardman ended up running back for like 50 yards before getting tackled. So I wanted to look at this play because it's informative how the Chiefs ended up trying to rush this kick. First of all, I want you to look at 54 again. He's the guy that we said the Chiefs had identified as a weak link. They rush Chenal and Karlaftis over him and bowl him over on this play. So Chenal and Karlaftis have shown that, that basically they've been able to exploit the same thing that they've noticed on film study, that these two guys are able to knock this guy over 54, just like they've seen on film. But notably, Justin Reid and Jack Cochran are rushing over here. So they just have Chenal and Karlaftis. They actually drop Jaden Hicks on this one. And Chenal and Karlaftis go and bowl 54 over. So let's look at it from here. And I think you can see that these two are here and they're the ones that are set up on 54. So the Chiefs have seen this weakness. They feel like they can exploit it. But I think notice that without Justin Reid and Cochran, especially Justin Reid, the end guy is able to help inside on this play. That'll be informative as we come back and look at the end zone view of the field goal that ended up being blocked. So the couple things to note, the Chiefs have tried out going after 54 with Karlaftis and Chanel. They succeeded in knocking him over. They weren't able to quite get to the kick, but they were having Cochran and Reid rush off the other side, not the same side as Karlaftis and Chanel for this play. All right, so now let's jump over to a field goal that the Chiefs blocked against the Broncos the last time they played in 2023, a game where the Broncos beat the Chiefs in Denver. All right, now we're back in 2023. This is in Denver. The Chiefs were playing the Broncos. The Chiefs ended up losing this game, but they blocked a field goal, and it's important to see how they did it to kind of inform you as to what they ended up doing to block this field goal to win the game this year. So what they did on this play is they had Justin Reid on this side come around the edge, and if you look, he gets an awesome get off with the snap. It's like exactly, if you watch the ball move, Reid is moving as the ball is moving. He clearly had the snap count timed down to a T. Gets a perfect jump, and I want you to watch the end man here. Look how he just kind of puts a hand out, but he's really helping inside. And then Justin Reid gets around the edge and blocks this field goal. So in this scenario, you've got the end guy helping inside, and you've got Reid able to go around and block this field goal. So this had to have been in the back of the Broncos' minds now as we set up for the actual kick that gets blocked. So now you see as we kind of put it all together, on this time we have these guys lined up together on the same side as Justin Reid, and watch how differently 79 plays this, the leftmost protector. Watch how much attention he devotes to Justin Reid here. So he creates a much wider alley. He's not helping 54 out at all. He's really focused on making sure Reid can't do anything. And you contrast that to what it looked like previously when he was really helping inside and let Reid go all the way around the edge. So there's a combination. They ended up setting this up by knowing 54 is a weak link and really targeting him, trying to really run him over, and using the fact that Justin Reid had blocked a kick against the Broncos the last time we played them. They lined him up on the same side and made sure that 54 would have even less help than he typically would because they'd be worried about Reid coming off the edge. That allowed the Chiefs to exploit this right here, block the kick, and the Chiefs end up winning this game. I mean, that ends up being a huge, huge victory for the Chiefs. It preserves their season now at 9-0. Keeps them, I think most importantly, keeps them 2 games ahead of the Buffalo Bills for the 1 seed right now, with the game at Buffalo coming next. Well, that's it for this Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings film review. Thank you so much for all of you that stuck with this, that have been watching the film reviews, that have been watching the video podcasts, or that have been downloading the audio podcasts, or that follow along on TikTok, Twitter, or Instagram at STCF715. Thank you so much for all the engagement. It's been really fun doing this. We will continue doing this through the football season, and then hopefully have some fun stuff for you in the off season as well. Maybe some more kind of season in review, but that's a long time coming from now. For now, let's see what happens in Buffalo next week, and then we'll have Steelers-Ravens as well coming up this week. But before that Steelers-Ravens game, we'll have the Steelers-Commanders film review that'll probably drop tomorrow. Thanks for following along. Until next time.